Today I was going to show you a new water effect. But then, during the making of my water effect mix media card, I stumbled upon an incredibly cool technique. But let's go back to the beginning. It all started with a fish. For the card with the water effect, I decided to draw a fish. So I took my iPad and started sketching. And yes, that is my hand doing nothing because I didn't film me actually drawing Wonky Willie. This is the time lapse that's in Procreate. So once I was done, I printed Wonky Willie so I could color him. But using an inkjet printer will give you smears with any sort of less than dry medium, as a printer ink will bleed. So I needed to figure out a way around that.
Light bulb moment!
I grabbed an ink blending tool and my Distress Micro Glaze.
Let's see if it works.
And first I better test it to see if it is working. So I glazed half the image and then I spray some water, and the unglazed part definitely bleeds while the glazed part stays intact.
Let's try coloring.
So my first test with watercolor. And that won't work as the layer is resistant to water, duh. But using the water brush gave me another idea. So I took an empty water brush and some rubbing alcohol and filled my water brush with that instead.
Let's try coloring again.
So I put it to the test with some alcohol inks, and this is me coloring the first time I filmed.
This is going really well.
Starting over.
So I started with a new image, more glaze over the printed image, and next I took some kitchen paper to buff my image to take away the excess glaze. So I add some alcohol inks on my desk in pretty colors, and then I started coloring my image. Now it works a bit different than markers as the brushes are softer and the ink is diluted more with the rubbing alcohol, but it does really work because the printer ink doesn't bleed. I can go over the lines multiple times and the ink and paper is protected, but the result is pretty cool. And with some practice I think you can get some really cool results. And when you have some little smudges or where there's some ink where you don't want it, add a little bit of the alcohol with your brush and blot it with a clean cloth. Don't wipe, that will make an even bigger smudge. I also found out that drying in between helps with layering, which is always like that. Wet on wet blends and dry on wet layers. And by adding some more layers you can get a deeper color and create some more texture. And I think this is a really cool way of coloring an image. And going over a dry previous colored part again with the brush will move the inks a little bit, but not as much as on Yupo paper, which makes it easier to work with this way. And I'm having quite a bit of fun, even when I had to do it all over again. But on the other hand, this is a great way to get to know Wonky Willie a little bit better. And using the Distress Glaze in this way is a pretty cool way to make multiple kinds of paper a great surface to work with your alcohol inks. Which is always a cool thing. More options, I'm all for it. And to give Willie a nice finish, once he's dry, I add some white highlights in different spots. And just so you know, Wonky Willie is a super friendly fish and he got his name from his best friends who deeply appreciate him, not to make fun of him. And as promised, some fussy cutting. Make fussy cutting less fussy by wiggling the paper, not the scissors. And here he is, my new cute fishy friend, Wonky Willie. Now next week Wonky Willie will be back and you will see how he gets some water to swim in a fun mixed media style card. In the meantime, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up and watch another video if you want to. And as always, make sure to keep on crafting.